Hello and welcome to The Birth of a New Dimension. My name is Aurora. I'm a galactic walk-in, a non-physical, abstract, non-terrestrial energy presence that has become invested in the physical human form here and the physical experience on Earth. And I am here to teach you about becoming or joining with the Flying Rainbow Lasagna energy pattern. So first of all, my origins are abstract. That means that I do not have an anthropomorphic or human-centered form. I don't have a head and two arms and two legs, or a form that would be recognizable to the biological format that we currently are inhabiting. My otherworldly form is an abstraction, so something that would be not interpreted as representing something that you're familiar with in the physical realm, or it might look like a kaleidoscope or what you would call geometry. But I've spoken in the past on this broadcast about how we no longer call this vibratory interdimensional language geometry, because that has as its etymology geo, meaning earth, and metric, meaning to measure, literally to measure earth. And what we're really speaking about here is a interdimensional vibratory language of color, line, shape, form, movement, texture, and tone. And tone, I'm referring now to music, because when I started perceiving this truth, this basic empirical truth of the cosmos, it came through my filter of education and perception, which happens to be in the visual arts. And later on in my experience, as I became more cultivated, I have learned that it is coming through as music as well. So this is an expression of the harmonic pattern of energy in the cosmos. And harmonics, meaning this is an organized pattern of nested proportional waves. Brief pause. So all of this so that I can explain and describe what the Flying Rainbow Lasagna is. First of all, if you've never seen a picture of it, you can either look at the ucy.tv, the banner, the image that is related to the Birth of a New Dimension actual show has a picture of the Flying Rainbow Lasagna. And if you go to the Birth of a New Dimension homepage on UCY, you can scroll down to the Twitter feed and click on any of those pictures. Will bring you to my artwork, which has a variety of different lasagnas that you can look at. Or in much more simplistic terms, you can just go to flyingrainbowlasagna.com and click on the Flying Rainbow Lasagna aspect and look at different sculptures, animations, and images that I have created. The images that I have created must be understood that they are like a time-lapse, overlapping image of something that is actually a movement. So just like if I took a picture of a person with a tennis racket hitting a tennis ball, and it was a long exposure, it would look like they had 10,000 arms that connected their starting point to their end point in the movement of their arm. And you know intellectually the person doesn't have 10,000 arms, that we are showing the movement of their arm through time. And this is what we are also showing with the Flying Rainbow Lasagna. If you check out, it's also on YouTube, an animation that I created called The Conception of the Flying Rainbow Lasagna. It shows very well, without the flapping of moving mouth parts, with just visual language, how this shape is created by the oscillation, the up and down movement of the little violet point that represents the singularity. So the Flying Rainbow Lasagna sculpture shape is the end result of what happens when we take that abstract singularity point, and we can do two things. We can either make it jump up and down, or move it into place. This is my boss, the cat, jumping up on the table, having to participate in today's broadcast. So we can either make the violet point of abstraction jump up and down, or we can keep that singularity in one place, and we can make the cosmos jump up and down around that point. Like we can place the point in a room and then keep the point in one place, but just move the room up and down around that point. And both of these movements have as their end result the creation of the sculptural form or the shape of time, space, and consciousness that is the flying rainbow lasagna. So I am describing the flying rainbow lasagna as a boundary dissolving tool, a energetic movement that can be applied to any membrane, to anything that creates separation or division. So I've described in the past how each of the individual egos that we created are a form of consciousness separation, just like the cell has the cell membrane or your body has the epidermis. Your consciousness has the ego, the sense of me versus everything else, my interior versus the external world. And we also have as a boundary that separates things the membrane of time. The understanding that we, as science describes it, are living on the surface of an ever-expanding bubble of time. And we occupy the present moment, the right now, and the interior of the bubble would be considered the past, and what's outside of the bubble would be considered the future. And science can recognize and point to and measure the past. Science feels much less comfortable measuring, pointing to, or trying to recognize or look at the future. So science just sticks its fingers in its ears and says, la, 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 the future doesn't even exist. So according to science, we're just on a bubble of time, expanding outward, ever expanding, and we don't actually have a medium or a context within which we are expanding to. So the flying rainbow lasagna is what happens when we actually place that bubble of time in a context. We don't just have a thing floating in a vacuum of nothingness. We now have a thing in a room. It has context, and we can now move that thing relative to the context or keep that thing in the same place and move the context up and down. This is how to create a new dimension. And in math talk, and I wasn't always this comfortable with math talk, but I've learned to love it as its own language. In math, when we add an additional dimension, we add an additional degree of freedom. And what this means is, like, we are very familiar with the spatial dimensions, like the first, second, third dimension. We occupy these and look at them with our five senses every day. So imagine the second dimension, a flat piece of paper, being folded. That means we're gaining the third dimension. And that means that now we have an additional degree of freedom, more things that we can do, or more movements that we can make. Now we're applying this to dance movements of your DNA. Brief pause. So you and I and all of this other beautiful life of the biosphere here on Earth's planet crust, we are a bridge. And if you use DNA in your physical bodysuit, you are a bridge of light and consciousness between the world of possibilities and probabilities, or the subatomic world of uncollapsed waveforms. You could call it quantum realm. It is the realm where we get to energy that is at such a small level that we cannot actually point to it with any certainty. We cannot actually observe it with any certainty. We cannot actually say exactly what that energy is doing. We can give a generalized description of where it is and what it's doing, but not exactly what it's doing. What we're looking at is just a field of possibilities and probabilities, and contrasting that with the other end of what is bridged, the realm of actual events. When I paint my paintings and make these extensive drawings, what I am painting and drawing is the structure of time and events. The flowing membrane of death, that boundary that is the boundary of the time vortex that I'm always drawing, that is created by the last moments of each of the timelines, of each of the possibilities of an individual's life. These are created by the movement of your consciousness through time. So understand now that your non-physical energy presence, that which envelops you around your physical body and interpenetrates your physical body, this is your non-physical time body. And your DNA, these little vibrating strings that you are like a musical instrument, that's made of vibrating strings. Your DNA is vibrating, and what you're vibrating is time and events. And you're vibrating within a sea of time and events. And so you, emitting your vibrations, are always affecting your environment, and you're also marinating in a sea of vibrations being affected by your environment. And this has everything to do with cosmic ethics. If we live in a world of unconditional love, and if we live in a world of free will, how can we then understand affecting one another? If I am affecting my cat over here, doesn't she not have free will? Am I imposing my free will upon her by affecting her? Blah, blah, blah. Here is how we untangle that Gordian knot. Basically, being in existence means that you are affecting existence. Even observing things in the world means that you are affecting that which you observe. This is the question of observership, and science at high theoretical levels wrangles with this all the time. It also has to do with, like, why am I allowed to be here as a walk-in? So as a walk-in, I'm not the original consciousness inhabitant of this body. The original inhabitant died, and I came into this body. And the portal that I came in through is this vibrating, oscillating shape called the flying rainbow lasagna, which I invented so that I could come in here. And in doing so, this is like open source code. Once you make something, it is available for generalized use in the cosmos. The idea of, the 100th monkey, and if an idea is present in one area of the morphic field or the consciousness field that connects everyone, then it's available to other people too. So I invented an original thought, the flying rainbow lasagna. This thought does not come into conflict with any of the other previously established rules of the cosmos. Just like in math, there's a language and a syntax and a set of rules that have been established and set up. And 1 + 1 = 2, and 2 + 2 = 4, and 4 + 4 = 8. And we cannot simply say 8 + 8 = 9, because that's not true. That doesn't stand upon the foundation of facts that we have established beforehand. So in the paintings that I paint, I'm painting this pattern, this harmonic pattern of energy as it flows in the cosmos. And these are patterns that are established through trial and error, basically showing what leads to continued life. What can contain consciousness? Patterns that conform to this harmonic pattern can contain consciousness, can contain life. Patterns that do not conform to this harmonic pattern are not alive. This is why the natural world expresses these patterns, this vibratory language, in cellular structure and in the structure of, the way your bones grow, or the way that a nautilus shell grows, or the way that the rings on a tree grow, or the growth pattern of the actual wood of a tree. These are all beautiful expressions of mathematical truth and empirical truth in the natural organic world. And the reason why organic life contains abstract numbers is because that's how you get to be alive. You get to be alive when you conform to these abstract patterns. These abstract patterns, they're like music. They're like beautiful music that when you play the score, you stay alive. When you play the music that's not beautiful, that could be a beautiful jazz chord, but that's not the same as a beautiful harmonic chord that's at the proper interval. Then what happens is your energy does not have vitality. Instead of remaining coherent and having longevity, like staying together and going far, it dissipates and it does not go far. And this simply has to do with the structure of the waveforms that you are creating. So it's not a values-based judgment, good or bad. It's not like saying, I like this song, it's a good song. I don't like this song, it's a bad song. It's like saying, does this song have a structured waveform that is coherent, that increases in its amplitude, and continues over time? So I have over here at my left this beautiful, lovely harmonic instrument. It looks kind of like a xylophone, but instead of having flat metal bars on top, it has tubes. It's tuned to 432 hertz. This is the 432 hertz A. And all of the tubes create this beautiful resonant waveform pattern that when I play all of these notes together, the sound waves that they create overlap in a way that makes beautiful patterns. The patterns not only sound beautiful to our ears, they feel beautiful to the cells of our body. They help our consciousness to think or function in a way that is in conjunction with the planet, as opposed to being out of tune or out of harmony with the planet. So when I'm playing these notes, the way that they are vibrating the atmosphere is actually helping your cellular structure and your consciousness to be more in tune with the planet and, of course, with the natural world and the stellar network. Now, I am a musical instrument, the Flying Rainbow Lasagna, a vibration that is totally new. And I've come here into this physical body and into this physical realm to model this new dance movement for the rest of everything that's here. I do not impose it upon you. However, I do offer it, and I do play very loud. And this is what is appropriate, because we're getting into cosmic ethics. Am I allowed to simply dictate and override and overrule you or anyone else, my cat, a plant, a redwood tree? No, the answer is I am not. I am not allowed to force you to be different than you are, to vibrate differently than you are vibrating, to change your frequency. I'm not allowed to do that. No one is allowed to do that. That's not love. Love means total acceptance. It means I accept you exactly for what you are in this moment. I don't need to change or fix or heal or anything you at all. However, when we look at the practicality, like there are abstract empirical cosmic rules that are like, the laws on the books, and then there's the way that those laws are actually applied and experienced in reality. And I use the analogy now of many pendulums, or like metronomes, that's it, metronomes, that are all clicking back and forth, keeping their own unique time rhythm, and they're all on a table. And what happens in this science experiment, all of the metronomes eventually over time become synchronized. And so that they're all now clicking and moving in time. The ones that were moving faster have slightly slowed down. They have lost a small amount of energy. They've transferred their energy through the actual vibration of the surface of the table to the metronomes that were going a little bit more slowly. And now all of the metronomes are moving in sync. And this is what's actually happening in the cosmos, and specifically in the planetary noosphere. That's Noosphere. And this is a word that refers to the planetary consciousness. And that is everything. That's not just human consciousness. This is microbial consciousness, mineral life, cat life, ocean life, plant life. Everything that is here and human life adds up to the totality of consciousness. And this is the symphony that we are taking part in. And it's not just Earth. Consciousness pervades the entire cosmos. So we are submerged within a sea of vibration. And these vibrations are consciousness and their time. So we are experiencing a fabric of space, time, and consciousness. That's what I paint. That's what these shapes are made from, and that's what we are vibrating when we begin to vibrate with the Flying Rainbow Lasagna oscillation. So I am like a metronome that has its own very particular rhythm or vibration. And I've come here into this physical body, and I'm making the genes, the little tiny vibrating strings of this body, vibrate like a flying rainbow lasagna. I'm the first person that has ever done this. However, I'm not the only person that ever will do this. It's like saying it's a new dance that I invented, and I'm here to teach you the Flying Rainbow Lasagna dance, and then you can do it too. Now, it is totally appropriate to say, but Aurora, why would I wish to change my present dance movements and dance like a Flying Rainbow Lasagna? And the answer is the genetic degradation of humanity. So I've spoken about this extensively. I think I touch on it each week. Brief pause. This is the idea that between 10 and 20,000 years ago, Earth's surface humans, the genetic structure of your code that rules your physical structure was changed and degraded, and that what humanity was became what humanity currently is. Humanity lost its direct connection to the source of all consciousness. It lost or was separated from its higher faculties. Higher faculties meaning everything at the level of the heart chakra, unconditional love, that particular tone, and above, it's your heart, truth at the level of throat and the communication, wisdom or insight at the level of the brow, and at the crown, this is your connection to the divine, your connection to the source, your connection to higher consciousness. It's also the connection to the destination of where we are heading to. We're supposed to keep that in alignment during our adventures in the physical realm. It is totally an aberration that we now come into the physical realm and are distorted or are diminished in our contact with the source, that realm of infinity that emanated us. We're not supposed to be cut off at all. We're supposed to be in contact all the time, giving a real-time broadcast of what it's like to be here. So here I am, using the physical structure that has been emanated by stars, literally your calcium and iron in your blood and everything that's in there, all of your heavy metals, all of that was once burped out by, the death throes of a star when it was going supernova, and that's where that comes from. And all of your neurological energy, the timelines that you occupy, your thoughts and ideas, the energy that makes your cardiac muscles twitch and pump blood through your heart, all of that consciousness vibration also comes from the stellar network. So everything is on loan light, photons and consciousness that is being loaned to you by the stars so that you can have these experiences. And the beautiful agreement between ourselves and the stars, which is actually ourselves on a different, grander scale, is that we give our experiences. Like, thank you so much for giving me these raw materials. This is what I did. Thank you for the materials, mother. That is what matter etymologically is derived from mater, meaning mother. This mother is our physical world that gives rise to our consciousness. And the physical world is literally giving birth to our higher, more sophisticated consciousness. That's why I call this broadcast Birth of a New Dimension. The birth process does not mean literal, physical, like a baby coming out of the womb. I know it's hard not to get stuck in the biology of the bio-body suits that we're wearing, but let us think of the definition of birth as something new is beginning. And the something new that is beginning is the end result of the combination of two previously divergent realms. The realm of spirit, or pure consciousness, or pure energy, or the quantum realm, however you define it, or God, and the realm of matter, the realm of physicality, events that can be experienced with the five senses in the physical realm. This is what the flying rainbow lasagna does. It dissolves the boundary between these two realms. So the old expression, if wishes were horses, then beggars would ride. The idea that you could be wealthy with ideas, wealthy with consciousness, wealthy with energy, but poor in the manifestation of those ideas. That is out of balance, first of all. That's like a symptom of the cosmos not functioning properly. And the cosmos is being healed. All of the diseases, the areas of unease, the areas of imbalance in this larger body that we reside within a much larger consciousness entity that has been out of balance for a very long time, and it's now being put back into balance. So the degradation of human consciousness that happened between 10 and 20,000 years ago is part of the symptomatic disease of the cosmos. And the healing of your own individual consciousness is part of the healing of the planetary noosphere, is part of the healing of our galaxy, is part of the healing of our entire noosphere of the cosmos. This means healing coming into wholeness. The Flying Rainbow Lasagna is this new oscillating dance movement that helps you to rearrange your DNA. So between 10 and 20,000 years ago, the genetic code was changed in its shape. And I speak about this extensively in my Galactic History webinar, and it's even better when I can write and draw on a screen while I'm speaking. When I just, speak on the radio, my one hand is tied behind my back, seriously. So check out my broadcasts, Lessons for Full Spectrum Humans, and please participate in my upcoming webinars where you can really see what I'm speaking about, because I use diagrams to speak about this a lot. So if I had pen and paper before me and we were, doing a diagram here, I would draw a picture of a spring. And I would say this spring or slinky-like shape is what your genetic code used to be shaped like. And your genes are not flat, static things that just stay shaped like an X-shaped chromosome in your nuclei of your cells all the time. Most of the time, your genes are unfurled, like a sweater that has been pulled apart, and it's called chromatin. It exists in the nuclei of your cells, and this is when your DNA is really vibrating, like a resonant instrument or like a vibrating guitar string. And so just like all of those metronomes on a table, your genes are emitting tones and are affecting the world around you. And you are also being affected by all of the quote-unquote metronomes or genes, vibrating genetic codes of all of the people around you. And not just the people, but all life. This is when you begin to understand the profundity of this, you will see why genetically modified organisms are so dangerous, so volatile, and why they are a different form of pollution than, let's say, merely just like pouring a bunch of gasoline on the ground. If I poured just a chemical contaminant on the ground, it's not changing time. If I start to change the genes and modify the genes of an organism, and I am modifying timelines, and I'm modifying the way consciousness is expressed through time. And this begins to be very dangerous and very volatile. And even the process of selective breeding for domestication means that you are changing timelines. So literally, what has been done to humans, first of all, newsflash, and if you're not prepared for this, I should have warned you, ages ago in the broadcast, please turn off your radio, because if you're not prepared for a genetic upgrade, then this is just going to be unwelcome information. But yes, humans that have been domesticated from your wild, untrammeled state, this is what happened, that you were taken from being a multi-dimensional shape and you were flattened out into a flattened format. And the spiral or slinky-shaped genes became more like a flattened waveform. And what that means is that, just like in a book, word order matters. The order of the words in a sentence in our English language matters. Like, I'm just trying to think of a good example. Here's a very simple example. So in the English language, if we say cat eats mouse, it is different than mouse eats cat. All right, and these describe two very different situations. So in the genetic code, this is just like a language where we have basic words. It is the arrangement of those words that really creates meaning. And so the Flying Rainbow Lasagna is a tool that you can use to rearrange the words of your genetic code. This means that you could have a book. It doesn't matter what the book is, as long as it contains all 26 letters of the English alphabet, and you have the capacity to rearrange and reproduce those letters, you can use that book to say whatever you wish. Like you could rearrange the handbook for the 2004 Chevy Malibu into James Joyce's Ulysses simply by changing the order of the letters in the alphabet and repeating some and dropping out others. What that means is that you can take the genetic code of the body that you're presently using. Doesn't matter what it is, it's arbitrary. It's like the Chevy manual. And you can apply the Flying Rainbow Lasagna vibratory pattern reconstruction to change your genes into whatever you wish. And there are also safeguards built into the Flying Rainbow Lasagna. This is the idea of making it something that cannot be corrupted or utilized towards malevolence. Because you must understand that every time you invent something new, it's like, oh great, let's see if we can corrupt this. So I put in safeguards to it that it can't be distorted, slowed down through entropy, or utilized in a way that creates chaos and disruption. That this is really meant to be an antidote, a tool for reorganizing the cosmos. And I'll even tell you a little bit about, my personal journey, why I created this, because really being a walk-in is not something that is like voluntary or arbitrary or like I'm just here on vacation. It doesn't work that way. Really, in order to be a walk-in, you have to have very specific motivations and missions for coming through, and you're really only allowed to do it under specific circumstances. And like I said, there's a language of harmonic vibration. When you conform to that language, you get to be alive. When you don't, when you break that language, then you die. So in order to be alive, I had to conform to those rules and to that language. I could bend the rules but not break them. And that is what the Flying Rainbow Lasagna shape does. It bends those rules or previously established precepts, but it doesn't break them. So the idea of the singularity is that by definition it is single. The singularity in my artwork is usually represented by a violet dot and is the convergence point of all of the lines of, we could call it perspective, of the torus shape. All of these lines converge at the center. It is the place where the fabric of space-time and consciousness is stretched to the point of infinity. And science describes this as a singularity or a black hole, or the place where the rules of physics, the rules that govern the physical realm, break down and no longer make sense. The best way I can describe this to you is to say that it is the presence of all energy, of all consciousness, of all possibilities and probabilities. So it is where everything overlaps. It is the presence of everything. And there is only one singularity. By definition, there's only one of these convergence points in existence. So if I say there is a convergence point like that at the center of each one of your chakras or non-physical energy centers, or if I say there's one at the center of the sun, our nearest star, or there's one at the center of our planet, Earth, or there's one at the center of each nucleus of each one of your cells, or at the center of each one of the atoms that make up the molecules of your body, you can say, wait, Aurora, that doesn't make sense, because how can there be so many of this thing that you say is only single? And my best description is that the singularity is like one room or one place that has an infinite number of doorways that open into it. And every single one of our cells has a doorway to infinity. And each one of our chakras has a doorway to infinity. And the sun has a doorway. And the earth has a doorway. Each planet has a doorway. There are doorways or portals to infinity everywhere. And the Flying Rainbow Lasagna shape is created when you vibrate or oscillate the portal singularity that is within you with the portal or singularity that is external to you, seemingly external to you, but is actually a part of the totality of consciousness. So this is understanding on a deep level and embodying the truth that there is only one singularity, it exists within all of us, and there's one totality of consciousness that is all interconnected. That information, that truth, literally gives you an additional dimension and an additional degree of freedom. The folding of a piece of paper into a third dimensional shape, like a flat drawing into an actual origami sculpture, this is the additional degree of freedom. So taking something that was separated consciousness, the non-physical versus the physical, the realm of thinking of things versus the realm of actually experiencing things. That separated realm, that's like the second dimension, flat realm. And when we apply the flying rainbow lasagna to it, we now turn that flat realm into a sculpture. We now turn it into a realm where past and future can communicate. What's your inside, quote unquote, your world of hopes and dreams, can now communicate with your outside, the world of experienced reality. And the bridge of light through which it communicates is your DNA. These magical vibrating strings at a tiny, tiny level are what connect possibilities into actual events of reality. So you now understand what I'm talking about when I say that you are submerged within a symphony. The timelines of your life don't just exist in a virtual vacuum. They exist interwoven with the events of many other timelines, of many other organisms. The timelines of the microbiome, the tiny one-celled organisms that live in your gut. Those lives are intertwined with your life. If you didn't have your gut bacteria, then you wouldn't be able to digest food. Or if we didn't have the microbiome in the soil, we wouldn't be able to grow food. Let's talk about how your DNA is being affected by all of the plants around you. So you are like a vibrating metronome, and all of the plants, the living creatures around you, are also like a metronome. And what you think and emanate affects them, and what they think and emanate affects you. So literally, if you're feeling agitated and you go into a forest, you get to feel a little bit more calm and peaceful. And the forest takes on a little bit of your agitation. And the forest is large enough to be able to do this. This is a good thing to do. Please do not inhibit yourself from hugging a tree if you're feeling agitated, because literally it's like you're hugging something that is much, much larger than yourself. And it's like allowing you a release of that excess energy that is causing you turmoil. We recognize that we are interconnected. So now we begin to recognize that when humans domesticated plant life, humans changed the vibratory structure of the DNA around them. It is very different if you're standing in a field of domesticated corn, like a giant cornfield in Iowa. You have a different feeling than if you are standing in a wild, undomesticated rainforest in the heart of Brazil. The rainforest is like a brain. It's like a neurology. It is like a complex, sophisticated computer network of information and intelligence that is being transmitted through various organisms. A giant field of domesticated corn in Iowa, a giant monoculture farm like that, is not very intelligent. And that's why it doesn't have the immunoresponse that a forest or a rainforest has. All of the organisms of a rainforest work together to keep out pathogens, to keep life in balance. They're intelligent. They share nutrients along a mycelial network at the root network, at the root level rather. But huge monoculture farms, they lack that intelligence. They lack that genetic diversity. Are we starting to understand this now? I'm talking about the difference between wild bison that would roam the plains, giant herds of thousands and thousands of animals that were intelligent, that would be working with the environment. They have an impact on the environment, on what they are eating and what their hooves are doing to the land. They were working with the land. And let us contrast that with a herd of, cud chewing, unintelligent, domesticated cows that, mill about but do not have a sense of purpose or a sense of working together with the consciousness of the land. This is the difference between being a wild animal and a domesticated creature. Whether your genes have been changed from their natural format. And humanity is a domesticated animal. Your genes have been changed from their regular format. And this is why humans act the way they do. So first of all, just selective breeding, like changing a cat or a dog or a plant, changes your environment, it changes what is being reflected back to you. Like my cat is sitting right here on the table. She's a beautiful, lovely, domesticated creature. She is not like a wild bobcat. A wild bobcat wouldn't be sitting on the table next to me. Come on, it would like eat my face. So it's not, something has been changed in both of us that we are sitting next to one another. And no value judgment is being applied here, just the understanding that all of these metronomes on the table are affecting one another. So now, in 2001, in came a completely new rhythm on a new metronome. Oh, sorry, an old metronome, one that stopped playing, got revivified, and a new rhythm started playing on that metronome. I'm talking about the physical body. The old owner left the body, and I, as consciousness, came into this body and started it on a new rhythm. And first of all, that rhythm is what allowed this body to be a container for consciousness, as opposed to being a pile of dead, decomposing flesh, because it is a new dance movement that allows a connection to new possibilities. I want you to stop thinking of your genes as merely the expressions of the shape of your nose or the shape of your toe. It's not. Your genes are the expression of what is possible in reality. And there are myths and stories about people who transcended reality. Maybe the story of Lao Tzu, the founder of Taoism, who is said not to have died, but to have ascended with his horse, by the way. Horse being a domesticated animal, right? That was changed through selective breeding. I love the idea that Miss Ashley is going to ascend in consciousness. She is ascending in consciousness. Our whole planet, our whole planetary structure is ascending in consciousness. Let's name a couple of others who have transcended reality, like Enoch from the Bible, people who are said not to have died a physical death, but to have transformed into pure energy beings. Oh, so stories or myths form a foundation in the mind, even if it isn't enough food for the rational, skeptical, objective, materialistic mind to really sink its teeth into. It forms an integument for other parts of the belief system to say, this is possible for a body, this can happen. So this is what actually your bodies were intended for. You're not intended to ever have to experience hitting the membrane of death. It's like saying your cars were equipped with both a steering wheel and a windshield so that you can see where you're going and guide your car away from brick walls. And the membrane of death is meant to be a focuser of awareness. It's not punishment. It's not like, oh, you did something wrong, now you got bitch slapped by the cosmos and now you're smacked down and then you have to go back to the beginning and start again. No, I dropped my opera glasses. I laugh at that. That is silly. No, because it's a loving, benevolent cosmos. And why would I set things up that way? I would set things up so that you can actually see where you're going and actually navigate effectively. And this is what the higher faculties do. You were designed to be a human in the physical realm on Earth, connected to the source with your higher faculties. And when your higher faculties are activated, it means that you can see through time. It means that you can perceive the future. You can see what's coming. You can look through the windshield and see if your car is going to go over a cliff. And when you're also, you're connected to the source, which is guiding your consciousness, and you're able to see clearly through your third eye or your eye of wisdom and insight. And you are also connected to the steering wheel of your life, which is your will. Our will is what makes things happen. It is what makes us be on one timeline as opposed to on a different timeline. And our will is connected to our human operating system, what I've called a hacked operating system, which is highly flawed. The genes that were squashed, they affected your capacity to express your will freely. Literally, your free will was perturbed or diminished or adulterated or abused. And now humans have not been able to freely express their will, and the planet has not been able to freely express her will. This is like saying the planet is an artist, and instead of having access to all of the colors on her palette, she only gets to paint with like red and orange and yellow. And you can paint some pretty beautiful paintings with that, but you don't get to use green or blue or indigo or violet. And that means there's a whole level to the spectrum that's not being explored. And those higher faculties, these are the areas of sophistication and subtlety that allow us to do much more than merely survive. We are meant to do much more than simply keep our containers for physical consciousness and awareness alive for, a brief amount of time. We're meant to do a lot more with our bodies and with our consciousness. So we're meant to be connected to the stellar network as constant broadcasters and receivers of reality. This is what I say when I mean that we are divine co-creative beings or partners in reality. We are meant to be gods walking on the surface of Earth, connected to God in a different zone, emitting reality. And if we were that, we would not have starvation, rape, disease, abuse, or death. This is part of what I was saying. We were not designed to hit the membrane of death. We were designed to ascend, and I define ascension not as a rapturous floating upwards like the biblical literalists do, but instead as a changing of the vibration of your physical matter so that it becomes what we would define as non-physical. If you take your physical matter of your body and you add energy to it instantaneously, you'll raise the energy vibration of that physical matter. You'll incinerate it. This is what happens if you take a physical body and you place it like in a furnace or on the surface of a sun or expose it to, a nuclear radiation. It's instantaneously vaporized. It goes from a solid form directly to a gaseous and plasma state without any intervening decomposition. So this is the idea that if you add too much energy all at once, what you get is an instantaneous state change. But if you add energy slowly over time in the right way, in a way that is harmonious, we don't just destroy matter, we transform it into a new pattern. This is what the flying rainbow lasagna does. So this flying rainbow lasagna shape dissolves the boundaries between yourself as an ego and the world. It allows energy to come into you. It allows your genes to be transformed. It has broken the quarantine of Earth. Basically, Earth's surface consciousness has not been able to eat or ingest or have access to all of the energy of consciousness that it would like to because of the reduction in the human genome. It's like musicians in the orchestra that keep playing notes like this. Like that doesn't sound very pretty, and it's really hard for the other musicians to play their beautiful music like that because humans are playing like this. So it is very hard for Earth to be effectively expressing her true nature. Her true nature is incredibly loving and benevolent and balanced and harmonious. And when Earth is able to express her true nature, we have health and we are thriving and we do not have disease. And we haven't had a state of true health for basically the entire time of human history. Everything that's been written in human history since the past 5,000 years, and that is accepted as, within the time span, the time frame of what humans consider to be culture, has been Earth as a diseased, symptomatic planet. And now, through the flying rainbow lasagna, dissolving of boundaries, it's possible for that corrective and healing energy to come to Earth. And it comes to Earth in the format of new ideas, new dance movements for your genes. So your genes can now be rearranged. We can take the manual to the 2004 Chevy Malibu and rearrange it with a pencil with an eraser, and we can write whatever we want with those genes. We can write for you a body that endlessly renews itself through cellular regeneration. You don't have to grow old. You don't have to lose vitality. That's a really insidious program. The idea that you come here as a baby and that from the moment that you begin living, that you are aging and losing vitality. People here just take it as a matter of course. Like you're a little kid, Like, you can't get little kids to stay in bed and like sleep late. And so you're a 5-year-old, you jump up at the crack of dawn and, jump up and down on top of mom and dad's bed and wake them up. And then somewhere along the line, a person gets to be 20 years old and they can't get out of bed without an alarm clock, and they need coffee, to wake up in the morning. And, by the time people graduate from college and enter the workforce, like, that is just considered to be normal. People have lost their energy, they've lost their vitality, they don't feel like jumping up and down and dancing and playing all the time. They feel like dragging, and they don't have energy and they don't have vitality, and this is considered normal. And the idea that normal entropic loss of energy would then continue over the subsequent decades of adulthood until you are a bent over, arthritic, weakened old person that's like 90 or 100 years old, and then your body dies. That is not what you were programmed for, although we have a very strong model of that behavior. We've seen a lot of people that followed that program and that template for behavior. So to break that template, it's very challenging. We need to see that there are some people that act differently, that age differently. And there have been certain people over time, just like those certain people that ascended instead of hitting the membrane of death. There are some people that seemed not to age or to have a great deal of longevity or even to grow new sets of teeth. And all of this has to do with the expression of possibilities through your genes. If you do not believe that it is possible to grow a new set of teeth, then your genes will not place you on those timelines. It is not physically impossible to grow a new set of teeth, to lose one's baby tooth, go through one's set of adult teeth, and then to grow a new set of teeth after that. There are actually documented cases of people who have done exactly that. So I'm changing your genetic program by giving you that information. But it's like putting food on your plate, serving you this piece of lasagna, but it's really your choice about whether you eat the lasagna, and then it's your choice about how you digest it and how your body utilizes that lasagna energy. And if you choose to go to the gym and lift weights and turn it into muscles, or, if it is stored as unprocessed energy. So again, I'm affecting other people by being here. I'm not imposing my will upon you. You get to choose about how you eat and apply that lasagna concept to your life. But the basic idea is, can rearrange your genes, can solve and fix any disease or any physical inadequacy. And the way that you do that is through consciousness, through pure mind. And this is how we can understand the stories of incredible or seemingly impossible healings and physical transformations that humans have experienced. So humans have experienced medically documented but seemingly impossible or improbable spontaneous healings. And humans have also experienced things like being able to survive on pure sunlight without eating physical food. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. I'm speaking right now about a saint named Therese von Neumann. You can look her up on, do some research. She lived in the 1940s in Bavaria of Germany. She was targeted by Hitler because he was so threatened by her basic goodness. She was very devoted to Christ, and she made various altars to Christ during the day. And she didn't eat physical food other than the Eucharist. She would eat one Eucharist wafer a day, and she felt that it was completely blessed with consciousness and that it contained all of the nutrition that she required in order to be healthy and sustained. And during the last 25 years of her life, she didn't eat any physical food at all, and yet she was healthy and sustained. And she was also astigmatic, meaning that she spontaneously bled from wounds that appeared psychosomatically every Friday with the occurrence of the Sabbath, and she felt that she was co-experiencing the sufferings of, the literal biblical historical Christ. or Jesus, the historical Jesus, I should say. So anyway, I bring up her story because this is a historically documented in the 20th century example of a person who believed so strongly that they did not have to eat physical food that, bam, they didn't have to eat physical food. And there are many stories that are not documented, but that come from the Far East of masters of meditation and of yoga who did something similar through breathing exercises, through cultivating chi, the basic life force energy. And there's even a movement called the breatharian movement that is a way of ingesting nourishment that is beyond mere physicality. And the whole point of this is that it's a change in consciousness that allows this to happen. You need to change your software, not necessarily change your hardware. These software upgrades, changes in your consciousness, happen through changes in your genetic code. They happen through changes in your DNA. And again, the Flying Rainbow Lasagna does not impose changes upon you. It offers them to you. So with the Flying Rainbow Lasagna, you can connect to the source of consciousness and turn into whatever is your greatest potential. This is what is being offered to you. So if your greatest potential is to become as physically fit as an Olympic athlete, like you could run 20 miles a day, and to be able to write your own music and play piano as beautifully as Mozart, and to be a healer as powerful as any, hands-on healer, to be able to take away disease from other people that are willing participants, and to be an artist, creating beauty in whatever you do, if it is through painting or if it is through gardening and creating living structures, that this is what is available to each one of us. And to be an inventor, to be a creator, an inventor, a person who might make new machines or a new apparatus or a new formula for doing things, that this is what each one of us exists as in potential. The idea of just being a person who works behind a cash register at a convenience store. This is no offense to anybody who's at that level. That's not your true potential. That is what society dictates to you is an appropriate position, because society has domesticated your physical structure. Society has diminished your consciousness. Society does not want you to burst forth into the multidimensional structure that you were actually designed to participate in, because you would do a lot of things to change society. So we are really changing society, and this is very threatening to those beings that rely upon the status quo. And it's also incorrigible. It is not stoppable. This is because the baby is coming. This is birth of a new dimension. These two divergent realms are coming together. This cannot be stopped. So let us have a joyous and comfortable birth and give birth to a healthy new dimension that's filled with love. Thank you so much for being with me on the journey.